for employee mistrust is that we understand at first that when employees hear they are being monitored, they see this as a bad thing, but they shouldn't. They'll be aware of exactly what they are being monitored for, and because employers usually have an acceptable use policy in place that is made known to all their employees and makes them aware of what they're being watched for. They also shouldn't feel less motivated because there are such programs to prevent that, such as the program I mentioned before, the performance incentive software that encourages employees to work hard for gifts. Our hostile work environment rebuttal is that employee monitoring will not cause a hostile work environment because of people finding out their other people's business. Only a designated manager will know what is being monitored by a certain person, and he is not going to share that information. Programs make it so that a manager doesn't have to see everything an employee is doing on the internet, but catches things that they should not be doing. Coworkers will still be able to work together in a civil atmosphere, and monitoring will improve the environment because they will all know that they're there to work just as much as the other, and no one will have to report to a manager if they think someone is slacking, because with employee monitoring, the manager would have already known and addressed the issue.
Our rebuttal for inequality in the workplace is that although it is impossible to keep bias out, the monitoring could be done in an unbiased way by not allowing the employee to see who they are monitoring, so they cannot judge the person's work that they are looking at. A privacy rebuttal is that if an employee wants to report to a higher power, their boss, they don't have to worry because the CEO is the one who looks at all the reports, not their direct boss, therefore eliminating any issue.
Our rebuttal to their idea of misuse of company resources is that employees, when hired, should already know what they should and should not be doing. They shouldn't have to be monitored on all their actions. Companies should have no authority to be able to read an employee's email. It just isn't right.
A rebuttal for their point about ensuring company security is not breached, they said if employees are aware they are being watched, it will discourage them to send private information. Well, if an employee is working for a company, this is their everyday job. They will not risk that in order to leak information. At some point, the company has to trust their own employees.
For the rebuttal of using employee monitoring to avoid legal liability, even though the company is monitoring computer usage, that doesn't mean that they are preventing the problem from happening. They can enforce consequences for computer-related crimes such as sexual harassment, but the damage has already been done. As far as using employee monitoring to keep performance up to par, if a company has put their employees through proper training, then they shouldn't need to be monitored to ensure that they are not losing clients. Also, if a company needs to depend on employee monitoring to keep their employees motivated, then there's probably a greater issue within the company than just productivity.
In conclusion, controversy over the policy of employee monitoring is volatile, and both sides of the argument have been stated with great caliber.
So far, most businesses have performed fine without employee monitoring.
However, employee monitoring may be necessary to keep everyone on track and behaving in the workplace.
Employee monitoring is very controversial. Don't laugh! Where do I look?
If their supervisor is constantly monitoring their email, the employee may have trouble discreetly addressing their issue to a higher ranking employee. This can leave the employee feeling cornered and powerless.
Sorry.
40% assign an individual to manually read and review email. Nobody wants to feel like they're constantly being watched. Consider this scenario. What if an employee is having problems with their supervisor and needs to talk to someone over their head?